Hello, and welcome to another edition of Who's the Savage Now? Who's the Savage Now? Good question. I'm MC, your host for this latest edition of my YouTube channel, Who's the Savage Now? Covering everything from handcrafted animal rights advocacy to local pedestrian safety and everything in between. Vegan cuisine, music, handcrafted music, we got it right here. We got it. To, what else do we do? On-air, we cover on-air malfeasance at our local public radio stations. Yes, we do. And we bring it all live and direct from the poor man's beachfront condo here on the edge of a continent, right on the edge, in an previously undisclosed seaside city, not far from the megapolis known as Los Angeles, California. Exhibit A for humanity gone wrong, indeed. So sit back, relax, walk the dog, feed the cat, and get ready for some hard-hitting commentary from yours truly, MZ. Thanks for being a part of the show. We appreciate it. Stay tuned for more. Greetings, everybody. I'm MZ, your host on this edition of Who's the Savage Now? This is my summary recap, first blush of the LSB Listener Station Board candidate debates for KPFK, 90.7 FM in Los Angeles, California. I've spent the last few days listening to the debates forwards and backwards, up and down, sideways, and I want to share some insights, observations that I've made about them with you, maybe to help you in your vote, if anyone is voting at all, ever, in these elections, ever. They were supposed to be held in the summer, I guess. Got pushed back to the winter. Just a quick overview. Let me give you a quick overview of the debates as I saw them. One of the most glaring absences or omissions of the debates was no mention of Spanish language programming, other than to say, I've got no idea what's going on over there, by one of the candidates. I think it was Ken Aaron. No Spanish-speaking candidates on the running for the board that I could see, and no candidates of color running for the board. So those are some glaring things that stood out to me, just off the top of my head. Not one mention. Additionally, not one mention of any show on KPFK currently, or one host. Not one single, except one. There was one mention by one current candidate to the KPFK LSB board, and I'll mention that in a little bit, and tell you what show that was and which host. And also, while I was waiting for the KPFK debates, they happened on Thursday, Friday. They didn't come out till like Monday. I was checking every day. Come on. There was somebody. So while I was waiting for the KPFK debates, I dropped in on the KPFA debates up in Berkeley and listened to their debates, and there were a couple of people that made some comments, real provocative comments that I want to share with you as well. One was related to mentioning a show that's currently on Pacifica stations, and highlighting it and saying we need more like this. And so I thought that was a big. I guess they're not allowed to mention shows and hosts. It's just too controversial, or. If it wasn't for the call letters, KPFK, you wouldn't know what station they were talking about. And that's odd to me. That seems a little odd that there's no discussion about current shows, current programming. It's just too controversial. Too controversial. It's the third rail of conversation. I can't imagine what the LSB meetings are like, if this is an example. Some major themes that I noticed. Programming, who gets to decide what shows go on the air, what shows stay on the air, criteria for evaluating the programming, do they have listenership, or do they bring in money, are they FCC compliant, a couple of other things I'm not thinking of at the moment. Are they fulfilling the KPFK mission statement? How can we find a balance between shows that aren't that popular but are mission-driven versus shows that are very popular, but not that mission driven, not that mission driven, and fulfilling the mission of the station. So it's a balance, it's a conflict. My realization in listening to these debates, very important questions. I mean, how do you run a democracy without a free press? KPFK is one of the last bastions. It's running on the fumes from the origins of itself. I think it was gestated in the anti-war movement in the 1960s. And I think it was born out of that environment, that anti-war protest environment. And so today, if you look at today's programming on KPFK, the majority of primetime programming, they talk about Trump. Trump, what a bad guy he is, what a criminal he is, who's his mistress, what mistress is he paying off, how much, And again, it's Trump. Yeah, Trump is horrible, but we have to look at the system that gave us Trump. That's where the problem is. That's what we should be reporting on. The DNC cheated Bernie out of his fair shake. Why isn't anyone looking at that? And this whole Russian narrative that came out of the Democratic Party, so people wouldn't look at them. Say, hey, look away, look over here. Don't look at us. Look at Russia. Look at Putin. He's connected to Putin. It's hysteria. It's McCarthyism. It's red baiting, and it shouldn't be on KPFK. It shouldn't be on KPFK. Another major theme was money and fundraising. How should we fundraise? How should we focus on people at $25 a year and just go for the mass appeal of just like Bernie Sanders, getting thousands and thousands and thousands of people to donate $25, $27, as opposed to going after people with celebrities with deep pockets. Okay. Jack Black, Jackson Brown, blah blah blah. I'm not involved in the interior discussions about this. I've never run a radio station. I have no idea what it takes to run a radio station. I'm speaking completely as a listener. I know I don't understand all the machinations involved here. I'm just commenting as a listener, the way I see it as a listener on the outside. CAB, a lot of things were mentioned that I've never heard of as a decades-long listener and a daily listener. Community Advisory Board, CABs, never heard of them. And I found out that we're missing out on $1 million a year funding from Corporation of Public Broadcasting because the CAB Community Advisory Board is not completely staffed. The Program Council Board, or PCB, I'd never heard of that. So there's just a lot of boards. And another thing that emerged in the conversations was that it's KPFK, Pacifica, it's too top-heavy in bureaucracy. There's too many people on the boards. There's 24 on the listener station board, 22 on the national board, I believe. If it only takes 12 people to convict a man to death for his crimes or to life in prison for his crimes, 12 people, why on earth would it take 24 people to advise a community radio station? Think about that. Another major theme, was the mission. Not really talked about a lot, but a few people mentioned it. What is the mission? Is everybody on the same page of the mission statement of Pacifica? Are all the shows currently expressing and supporting and furthering the mission or not? Criteria for show evaluation, I mentioned. Streamlined bureaucracy, I mentioned already. Okay, those are some of the major themes I isolated, located, specified, and am expressing to you now through this YouTube channel, Who's the Savage Now? I'm MZ, your host. It's Saturday, late February, sunny but chilly day here on the edge of a continent, right on the edge. And what else do we got? I want to open with a couple of points right away. One of the things I think is the most important that I've been expressing to the management at KPFK is programming and trying to help them out. And I think, like as I said, it's Trump heavy and not a lot of focus on causes. Well, here's another point. Nobody wants to hear the freaking truth. Nobody wants to hear that crap. Nobody wants to hear about all the problems in their own community. Nobody wants to take a look at themselves and in the mirror. Nobody wants to look in the mirror. Everybody wants to look at Trump and what's he doing? What did he say today? What did he do today? Who's his mistress today? That's what everybody wants, and that's part of the problem, because that's what everybody wants. That's what people want to listen to. That gets the ratings. Local problems in the community. Nobody wants to hear about that. So there's got to be a balance. There's got to be some kind of balance there. And I wanted to start off by something that Ken Aaron said. Ken Aaron is one of the. Let me just let you know some of the names here. Some of the names that are going to be popping up. Michelle Manos. She's on the candidateslate.org slate of candidates. There's a bunch of them there, 12, 14, 16. Michelle Manos is on that slate, but I don't think they're not all in lockstep. They can disagree with each other. I found out they don't have to be on the same page, so that was one of my concerns. Michelle Manos, she was a former radio host, broadcaster, activist. She's a newcomer, so she'd be a newcomer. Marshall James was there. I liked a lot things he had to say. Fred Blair was at part of the debates. Grace Aaron was there. Steve Kaiser was there. Jan Goodman was there. Ken Aaron was there. Alan Beek was there from the candidateslate.org. Michael Novick, Jeff Silberman from the Grassroots Community Coalition. Michael Novick, Jeff Silberman, and John Suarez. John Suarez is on the candidateslate.org. John Suarez. So those are some of the names I'm going to be talking about coming up, and also a couple of. I'm going to bring up a couple of people from the KPFA candidate debate, because they said some interesting things. Sharon Adams and James McFadden. So with that in mind, let's get this out of the way. First off, let me start with something very important. Why we have debates at all. Ken Aaron put it best. Let's just take a listen to Ken Aaron from the debates.
I did want to point out, I wanted to thank you. This lady in the middle here, Renee, she is a national election supervisor, and she pulled us out of a catastrophe and is making this election happening. And this is something I'll say, and I'll repeat it later.
So, thank you, Renee Peñalosa, for putting these elections together. I know it wasn't easy. I'm pretty sure it wasn't easy, and well done. I initially was critical of staff for this, but I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. It must be incredibly difficult to get anything done in an environment as dysfunctional and chaotic as Pacifica, KPFK sounds. So thank you, Renee Peñalosa, National Election Supervisor for Pacifica. And thanks to all the candidates that took the time Thursday and Friday night to come over to the Pasadena, wherever, and participate in these discussions. Thank you. With that being said, let's get right into it. Let's get right into these discussions. There's, theoretically, a lot of it's academic. Wouldn't it be great if we could do this? Wouldn't it be great if we could do that? But on occasion, these debates, discussions brush up against fundamental democratic issues. Free press, does it exist in the USA? Can it exist in the USA? So I think that's one question that everyone's wrestling with. Like free press, like KPFK, and that's pretty important. And other things about culture and politics and stuff, and not just station minutia, the everyday station minutia. But there were a couple of things I wanted to mention right off the top. Programming notes. I mentioned earlier that I listened into the KPFA debates briefly and came across a couple of comments that I wanted to share with you. Well, one comment right now from a candidate by the name of Sharon Adams. She's running for the LSB up in Berkeley. And she mentions a show that's on KPFK and currently, and she mentions the host, and she, is excited about this show. She says, why can't KPFK have this show? And it's something that I've been saying to KPFK also recently, very recently. to the KPFK management. And again, I understand. I may be jumping the gun here, holding Anielle, Fields, Kevin Fleming, Maxie Jackson, not so much, but Anielle, Fields, Kevin. I may be jumping the gun, holding them responsible for things that are going on now. It's like turning a ship around, right? It's turning an ocean liner around. Okay, you just don't grab the wheel and jerk it around. Okay, it takes time. It takes time. It takes time. So forgive me if I seem overzealous and over bombastic. But let's listen to Sharon Adams, a LSB candidate in Berkeley, about a program that she's excited about. Again, at these debates, there was no mention of any show, any host, except this one show and this one host up in Berkeley, once up in Berkeley and once here in Los Angeles, California, on the edge of the continent.
Thank you. Yeah, I really like what Chris said about that our audience is the greater Bay Area listening audience, and I tend to agree with that. And I think there's a deep, deep hunger for truth. That's what I feel. I feel there's a hunger for truth. And I actually take in a lot of different media, and I've heard that millennials are now 40% of the voting population, and of course they're going to be a large part of our listening audience. And millennials also are very skeptical about news sources, and they won't just believe something that they hear on the radio or on the internet. They will check out their sources. So when I hear stuff that I have heard on KPFA that is not that is perhaps a little bit partisan, I think that it's somewhat, this is just my opinion, but I think that people that are seeking truth are not going to be drawn to that. So I really believe that we need to have a very strong emphasis on factual truth telling. And one of the examples that I want to give is Jimmy Dore, the Jimmy Dore Show. He actually is on KPFK because he's out of LA. So KPFA could run his show through Audioport, and I really wish they would, because he has a show on YouTube, and about a month ago I started watching his show, and he had 440,000 subscribers. Okay, not paid, but subscribers on YouTube. And in the past month, he grew 25,000 subscribers. That's more than we have as members of KPFA. So he's saying something that people want to hear. And that's what I think we need. We need very critical analysis of the very difficult times that we live in right now. That's what I think would really help all people. Thank you. Bill?
Bam! They're up in Berkeley. They're jealous of our Jimmy Dore program. Okay, so that's something I wanted to highlight right off the bat before I get into the detailed analysis, debate analysis in LA. I just caught that just randomly listening to KPFA's debates, that they're talking about shows on KPFK up in Berkeley, that they want the Jimmy Dore Show specifically. And now, again, nobody mentioned a show or a host at the debates except for Jimmy Dore. And there was one, let me just go down the list of candidates here in Los Angeles, and this is pretty much my ordering of how I'm going to vote, how I'm planning to vote in this election. Number 1, Michelle Manos. Number 2, Marshall James. Number 3, Tyann Schessor. Number 4, Jeff Silberman. Number 5, Jan Goodman. Number 6, John Suarez. Number 7, Michael Novick. Honorable mentions, Fred Blair and Alan Beek. And my Weak Link Award goes to, drumroll, Grace Aaron. Okay, Weak Link Award goes to Grace Aaron, and dishonorable mention to Ken Aaron, not with his opening remarks notwithstanding. And I hope to tease out some evidence for my comments as this program continues. So I mentioned the candidates. Number 3, my number 3 pick was Tyann Schessor. She also has something to say specifically about a show and a host at KPFK. Let's listen. Let's take a listen.
Let's see. How can we make KPFK thrive financially? So I think the combination of improved programming plus coming into the current environment for fundraising can help. And here's what I mean. A lot of the current media that I personally follow, they have their own YouTube channel. They have a channel on Patreon where their supporters directly fund their programming. Jimmy Dore is one of them. He's a KPFK. His program goes on KPFK, but he also has his own program on YouTube, and he has his own Patreon account. There are other platforms that are developing.
So, in a debate that doesn't mention any names of shows and hosts, and for Jimmy Dore's name to pop up twice, once in the LA debates and once in the Berkeley debates, just like that. I mean, that says something. That says something to me. In debates where you're not, it seems like it's a rule. You're not allowed to mention shows and hosts. So, one other criticism I would make about the debates is that they weren't aired live on the air. And I understand that the station doesn't want to air its dirty laundry or whatever, however you want to interpret that. These debates, people need to be having these debates. We need to be talking about these things. Otherwise, what's the point? It's all academic if they're going to, shun the debates. And a couple of candidates brought that up in the debates. Like, where are these going to be? Michelle Manos, she brought this up. Where are these going to be released? And Renee replied, well, I'm at least going to put them on YouTube. So I'm not sure who's in charge of that and who makes that call. That was another big point of contention in the debates. Like, who is responsible for programming? Should it be a committee? Should it be programming by committee? Should it be left to the committee to choose the manager and the program director and leave them up to it? It was a big conversation. Another thing that I'll just leap into from there, that seems like a pretty good segue. A couple of guys, Fred Blair and Marshall James, said some interesting things about the bureaucracy at Pacifica and KPFK. Too top heavy. And again, if it takes 12 people, if it only takes 12 people to convict a man to death or life in prison for his crimes, why on earth does it take 24 people to advise a community radio station on programming and fundraising, et cetera, et cetera? This is ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. And let's have a clip from Fred Blair, I believe, that I want you to hear.
My position as serving on the board in the past for 6 years, I have definite opinions on the bylaws. The bylaws definitely need to be changed. We've fought for these changes previously, and factional divisions have blocked them. But the major change that needs to be made is that the boards are too big and too unwieldy, and they need to be reduced in size to about the size of a jury. Most typical boards are about 10 to 12 people, and our boards are, the board of directors are 22 people, and the local station boards are 24 people. We even have problems, because of the size, we even have problems reaching quorum at the local station boards. So that's the major change that needs to happen. And I think, with good people on the board, it can happen this year.
So there you go. I really like that comment by Fred Blair. He's on the candidateslate.org slate ticket, whatever you want to say. Marshall James also had some good things to say about this. Marshall James, who is also a member of the candidateslate.org roster.
To run for this local station board, and I was very excited at the time. And the proposed election time was going to be in the summer of last year, and I was also given a primer on the bylaws, and the people who are already on the local station board were like, here's the link to the bylaws, but they're very labyrinthine. Here are the hot takes from the bylaws. So I feel like the overall impression that I've gotten is that the KPFK has gotten into this problem that organizations sometimes do, which is to try and solve an institutional issue by putting more institutional bureaucracy on top of what is already an inefficient system. So if anything, I think the bylaws themselves maybe need a full re-examination and paring down to streamline the decision-making process, to streamline the overall governance structure, and especially when it comes to the election, we should not set moving targets for when an election is going to happen. So there needs to be reliability. When an election time slides over half of a year, it sends the message to the potential voters that this organization is in disarray.
Thank you. Fred?
Okay, so, oops. So there you go. I like those. I think that's a very important topic of discussion. Was a very important topic of discussion at the debates. Like all these committees, just bureaucratic, top-heavy situation at the station, and nothing can get done. He said, with 24 people, you can't decide who's going to make the coffee, right? With 12 people would make it a lot easier. Streamlining. So I like Marshall James. He's a newcomer. Fred Blair is an old comer at the station, and Marshall James is a newcomer. So I suggest, I think there should be a mix of newcomers and old timers at the station. As I said, Marshall James, Michelle Manos, Tyann Schessor, and Jeff Silberman. Some new faces, new ideas, new energy. Good for the station all the way around. What do we want to go into next here, Michael? Oh, yeah. One more comment from Alan Beek, who is also on the candidateslate.org ticket. One just very interesting comment from Alan. See if we can pull that up here. 504.
I think each candidate should be running for this job for a reason. There are a lot of people on that board right now that I can't figure out why they ever wanted to get on the board, because they aren't doing anything. They don't seem to care about going anything but going to the meetings. I think we need people with an objective, and you shouldn't vote for somebody who isn't there for some purpose.
There you go. A lot of dead weight at the meetings. About 12-member dead weight situation over there. So we got to get rid of the dead weight, get that overboard so the ship can move forward, in my opinion. Imho, in my humble opinion. And that leads me into the first award of the afternoon, the Weak Link Award that goes to Grace Aaron, also on the candidateslate.org ticket. Former interim executive director, longtime LSB member and other board member, I believe. She's been on other boards. Just didn't come with it tonight at the debate. Just did not bring it, and didn't mention one achievement in her long history at the station. She didn't tout one achievement, one accomplishment, one problem solved, one situation handled, nothing. Just how excited she was that we're going to have new people and more conversations, and maybe she's, someone that Alan was talking about. Let's have a listen to the Weak Link Award winner, Grace Aaron.
I'm Grace Aaron, and I'm a longtime board member of KPFK, and I've also served on the Pacifica National Board, which is the parent company of KPFK. And I'm a longtime peace activist, and I'm also running in this election with a group of really great candidates. We have a slate. John Suarez is on our slate, and hope you'll take a good look at all of them. I think they're really terrific, and we're looking forward to really improving the programming at KPFK and starting fresh with a new board and improving our impact on society.
Okay, but Grace, you're not a first-timer. That's something a first-timer says. That's an intro for a first-timer. What have you done to further those goals that you want to achieve? What have you done already? You've been there years. And again, Maybe she was just having an off night, couldn't think of any. I don't know, but let's tell us about what you've done already. Otherwise, move out of the way. And one more short clip just to back up that statement that I've made.
Yeah, social media is the future, podcasting, and
it's February 2019. Social media is the future of podcasting. Okay, so how many years has that been true? Social media is the future. I mean, how many years have we known that already? She's just realizing it February 2019. It's a little too late, Grace.
Smartphones have become ubiquitous, and that gives us tremendous...
How many years ago was that true? How many years ago was that true? Smartphones have been ubiquitous for many, many years, if not decades.
Latitude to expand the variety and diversity of our programming, because it doesn't have to all be on the air on terrestrial radio, which of course terrestrial radio is still very strong, but we can put on our website and podcasts all kinds of material that isn't heard anywhere else. Okay,
what are you saying? You're not breaking any headlines here, Grace. I mean, we know that. You're just repeating platitudes, just basic information of stuff. Come on, you should have more to say. Somebody that's been there that long should have more informative stuff to say.
So and everybody and their uncle. I mean, little 5-year-old kids have smartphones, and
you're just noticing this?
Low-income people have smartphones. High-income people, it's really the way.
Too little, too late, man. Too little, too late.
Of the future. People are giving up their landlines. They've got smartphones and they use them, and we can reach them that way. And especially if we have unique offerings that other people don't have.
And so, what have you done in furtherance of that? I mean, how long have you been thinking about this? I don't want to belabor the point, but you get my point. Ken Aaron was the dishonorable mention for that. I'll play that clip later. And again, she was on the candidateslate.org slate with other members that I really liked what they had to say. Michelle Manos, Marshall James, Fred Blair, Jan Goodman, John Suarez, and Alan. The number 1 pick is Michelle Manos. Number 2, Marshall James. Number 3, Tyann Schessor. Number 4, Jeff Silberman. Number 5, Jan Goodman. Number 6, John Suarez. Number 7, Michael Novick. Honorable mentions, Fred Blair and Alan Beek. And there you have it. I'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. I'm MZ. This is Who's the Savage Now, my YouTube channel. Please like, comment, and subscribe to support this content. If you get anything out of this at all, support the channel. It's appreciated. And on to the next show. Another new member that my number 4 pick, Jeff Silberman. Jeff Silberman. I want to play a little bit of him. He had some interesting things. He's a new face, so I like him for that. And he's a professional entertainment attorney. He's got experience in conflict resolution with creative artists and et cetera, financing and stuff. So I feel that could be a real asset to the board.
Also, as Michael mentioned, I'm running with Grassroots Radio Community Coalition. I'm an entertainment attorney and a literary agent. I work in the book world, motion picture, and television world, so I'm accustomed to sourcing ideas, cultivating them, and bringing projects into the world. I'm also accustomed to having to deal with both creative and financial constraints, limitations, confrontations, and reconciling them. And I work with many people from diverse communities with diverse voices, diverse perspectives, and so I think that I can contribute to the board in that way in helping KPFK improve, uplift its programming, reach out to communities that we're not reaching and deal with financial constraints that we are currently facing.
He also went on to offer some real practical suggestions for reaching out to the community, and I wanted you to hear some of those.
Thank you. Yes. So I think I love what Michael just said about not only offering complaints that we often do on the air, but solutions and pathways forward. We have enormous resources here in Los Angeles. Among the ones I cited previously, we have 3 newspapers that I can think of off the top of my head. We have the LA Times, we have the Sentinel, and we have La Opinion. And we have journalists here who can also bring new voices, diverse voices, distinct voices. And again, I just go back to the mission statement of Pacifica. Our mission is to connect communities, to bound what we perceive and misperceive as boundaries, and to bring forth new insights and new information that people are not getting anywhere else.
Thank you. So that closes the...
There you go. One of the few candidates to even mention the mission statement. A couple others mentioned it, but one of the few that mentioned it and brought it up, especially in regards to reaching out to local communities. Does Ian Masters reach out to local news publications? Does he reach out to? Is he fulfilling the mission statement? Ian Masters. He had on Sidney Blumenthal recently, the Clinton sycophant and advisor. He couldn't get a job at the State Department. If you want to know about Sidney Blumenthal, just search on YouTube. What's that? Not Trent Lott. What's that guy's name? I'm blanking on his. Trey Gowdy, not Trent Lott. Trey Gowdy. Search on YouTube. Trey Gowdy, Hillary Clinton, Benghazi. He grills Hillary Clinton. I don't know how she escaped prosecution. He grills her about her emails from Sidney Blumenthal. Chris Stevens couldn't get a phone call to her, couldn't get a direct line to her, but Sidney Blumenthal had direct access to her. And Trey Gowdy just rips her a new one, quite frankly. That leads me. Okay, so we just heard from Jeff Silberman. That leads me to his the Grassroots Coalition, his colleague on that slate, Michael Novick. Wanted you to hear a brief comment from him. I like Michael. He's older. He's old-timer on the station. But he has experience, he has ideas, he has a knowledge of the problems, and possibly some solutions.
Actually, it's question number 2, and this goes to Michael Novick. Describe your proposals to improve the governance structure. For example, how would you change the bylaws, the election process, the size and composition of the local station boards and the Pacifica National Board? You have 1 minute to start.
When I was on the national board, I presented a motion to amend the bylaws to allow for elections every other year. Right now, we have a kind of strange process where we have elections 2 out of every 3.
So he's mentioning something that he did, something that he tried to get done. I like that a lot. He's been around a long time, but he's talking about things that he tried to do, has done, and will do. And that sounds credible to me.
3 years. I think if we had a 4-year term and elections every second year, it would be easier to get people interested in the election process. I think the main purpose of the elections is to engage our listeners in thinking about the future direction of the station. And so the governance process and the election process needs to be oriented to that. When I was the chair of the local station board, we met in various parts of the city. We had meetings in Long Beach and other parts of the Signal area. I think that would be an important change we could try to make again. I think that the governance structure has to work to heal some breaches at the station in terms of bringing both the paid and unpaid staff together.
This is a real sticky point here. Whatever you call that, the point of contention between the paid and the unpaid staff. He knows about it. He wants to talk about it, willing to address it. I like that.
Bringing both the paid and unpaid staff together and getting the management and staff involved in a process of strategic planning for the future of the station.
Thank you.
So that was Michael Novick. He's running with Jeff Silberman on the Grassroots Coalition slate. I don't have their website in front of me. They couldn't afford a flyer. They sent me an email. Nice guys. That leads me to where? Where are we going now, Michael? It leads us to John Suarez. John Suarez is on the candidateslate.org ticket, and I like he's an older guy, old-comer, not a newcomer. He has experience, and he speaks well, and he seems to be have something to contribute. Let's listen to a little bit of what he has to say.
John?
The notion of a cab is dear to my heart because I served on the cab. And
I think I mentioned this earlier. A lot of committees came up that I hadn't even heard of. I'm a 17 and a half year listener, long listener, daily listener these days. I'd never heard of a cab before. Community Advisory Board and the what was the other one? P something, PBJ? I forget. Program Advisory Committee. Okay. And we're not getting $1 million a year from CPB, Corporation of Public Broadcasting, because all these staffs aren't, all these committees aren't fully staffed. But that gets into the other question of, like, how many committees do we need? How many people should be on the committee? And so it gets deep, man. It gets deep. It gets deep quick here. But let's keep going.
I was a president for several years at KCT, as I mentioned, when it was still connected with PBS. We acted as a liaison between the community and the staff and the board. And I think we did a remarkable job. We were very active. Our group was large. It was a motley group,
Again, he's talking about stuff that he's done. He's not talking about specifically things he's done, but it sounds like he has experience and his head is in the right place.
In the usual sense of the meaning that we came from all over the place. And we were very involved with the community. And those were very enjoyable years sitting in that situation. And we were able to bring feedback on programming, on community relations, on staffing, back to both the board and the staff, and therefore that model, which I know about, is the one I recommend, and we certainly, under any circumstance, we should have a cap.
Okay, so Community Advisory Board. But then there was some deep discussions about, well, how much power should it have? From my understanding, the LSB doesn't have the power to green light or cancel any programming, but they do have the power to hang on. They do have the power to remove general manager. So that was interesting. They've got coercive power. But again, what happens at the LSB meetings, we don't know. The debates are not broadcast on the air. They don't want people to talk about this. They don't want people to hear these conversations for some reason. What would really be interesting if Aniel Fields, the general manager of KPFK, Kevin Fleming, the program director, and Maxie Jackson, new executive director of KPFK, would be in this debate, in these discussions, not the debates, but discussions with the LSB. That would be interesting. But I don't know, I don't know. What do I know? I'm a blog talker, YouTuber. So that's my take so far on the debates. I just played a few clips there, gave you a sense of I've listened to them up and down, backwards and forwards, and those are my outtakes of it and my impressions. As I mentioned earlier, I listened to while I was waiting for the KPFK debates to be released, to the public. We couldn't have them on air. They had to be recorded, edited, processed, and then released on via email link, right? I mean, okay, that's ridiculous for a radio station. That's ridiculous. That's absurd. I've never heard of anything more absurd. I probably have. I dropped in on the KPFA debates, I played you a clip of Sharon Adams, what she said about Jimmy Dore's show, and then I wanted to play a short clip of James McFadden. He's a candidate, LSB candidate up in Berkeley. He took part in the debates up there, and he had something interesting to say that I also feel about programming.
I'd like to add one thing to this. I think that we can't be a voice of resistance unless we have news programming that reflects that. And I have to say, our news programming on KPFA sounds an awful lot like NPR. And NPR, as my brother, National Petroleum Radio, is, if you look at the underwriting and stuff for that, it's very corporate. You'll hear the underwriting, the Koch brothers, Comcast, all the giant corporations. So I think we need to be different in that sense. And so our news needs to be more radical and give voices to those who are silenced. But I also think in the community itself, we also need to give voice. And that means more outreach to the community. So if there's events in the community,
because he goes on to make some more suggestions about announcing events in the community. Gee, what a concept! Announcing events there's an event today, Saturday afternoon, February 23rd, downtown LA at the Staples Center from 5 to 7 p.m. Last Chance for Animals is holding a protest against the bull riding competition there. But you wouldn't know it by listening to KPFK. You wouldn't know anything about it. Talk about a community of the voiceless. Animal abuse, anyone? That was James McFadden. He's a retired physicist from UC Berkeley talking about, at KPFA, I have never listened to KPFA, but he's talking about how their news coverage is starting to mirror NPR. And how is this possible? I mean, I don't know. How is this happening? And I've been a critic of Sonali Kuhatkar, Ian Masters, Jerry Quickly when he was still with the station. That Jerry Quickly just used to put on CNN clip and MSNBC clips, not to refute them, but to support them and echo them. Ian Masters does the same thing. How is this supporting and furthering the mission of KPFK? I have no idea. But again, I've heard Danielle and Kevin talk about legacy programming, and these guys have been here for decades, and they're entrenched, man. You can't, you're going to have to, use hard, you're going to have to it's going to take a lot to get them out of there. I'm hoping that's the way things are going. But I've been a critic of Sonali Kuhatkar on KPFK for her vaccine stories being identical to NPR. I'd like to prove that real quickly. Here's Lulu Garcia Navarro recently on Weekend Edition talking about vaccines and Dr. Andrew Wakefield, and apparently they can't look at other available information like the documentary Vaxxed, where Tom Hartman was interviewing on RT. Tom Hartman was interviewing Dr. Wakefield and Del Bigtree about the whole thing, and so I just want to play a short clip of Lulu Garcia Navarro on NPR Weekend Edition just recently talking about vaccines. I understand why they do their vaccine stories the way they do, because one of their major sponsors is the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturing Association, PRMA, which they failed to bring up at the beginning of this story. Shouldn't that be part of full disclosure? They do it with Amazon, NPR does. They say Amazon is one of our sponsors, but they never do it with the vaccine stuff. Let's have a listen to Lulu Garcia Navarro on NPR recently.
Look at the staying power of bad science and a group of volunteers trying to fight it. Take the infamous 1998 study by a British scientist that suggested a link between childhood vaccines and autism. It was retracted more than a decade.
He never suggested a link. He suggested further study was needed, okay? And they destroyed for that. They destroyed his career, his reputation, everything. That's the power Big Pharma has over academia, over scientists, over doctors, over the medical industrial complex. That's the power they have. And Dr. Wakefield is not anti-vaccine. He's for safe vaccines. And he went on to say that the reason they do the MMR, measles, mumps, rubella, together as a triad combo, because if they didn't, they would lose, Merck or whoever makes it would lose the patent. It's about money. It's not about health and safety and welfare of patients and people and kids. It's about money and patents. And that's what they say. And that's what NPR leaves out of the story. And I know why they do it. But what's going on? Why would Sonali be copying the same NPR stuff? But what else does Lulu have to say?
Later, and its author Andrew Wakefield had his medical license revoked, but the myth that vaccines cause autism persists today with serious public health consequences.
Yeah, right. Big Tobacco lied about their product not causing cancer. Big Oil lied about their product not causing climate change. But Big Pharma and their public relations outfit, the CDC, Center for Disease Control, they're telling the truth. Right. The whistleblower William Thompson just came out and said they destroyed data that proved the link. But Dr. Wakefield never suggested there was a link. He suggested more study. So they're not giving you the whole story, and they're paid not to give you the whole story at NPR. But what's up with Sonali? Listen to her story and see how similar it sounds to NPR.
A teenager in Ohio has obtained his own immunizations at age 18. Ethan Lindenberger, disturbed that his mother was influenced by the discredited ideas of a doctor named Andrew Wakefield, who erroneously linked vaccines to autism, was never immunized from measles, mumps, rubella, and other childhood diseases.
Again, erroneously linked vaccines to autism. He didn't do that. He suggested more study was needed. I'm talking too much about this.
An ongoing outbreak of measles in the state of Washington underscores the dangers of widespread non-immunization. So Lindenberger did his own research and got his shots. His 16-year-old brother has apparently decided to do the same as he turns 18. Stories abound of...
Stories abound! How many is that? How many is in abound? How many stories exactly is in an abound? Stories abound, she says.
Stories abound of children realizing their parents' mistakes of non-immunization and attempting to get their shots, but many are restricted by state laws requiring parental consent.
This is Sonali saying this. She doesn't give one medical professional, one government health professional, not one health worker, not one clinician, not one scientist, not one researcher. This is just Sonali saying this.
In international news, Iran...
She doesn't attribute that to anybody. Blows my mind. Some people, I can't afford Siri, I can't afford Alexa, but I had to get the discounted half right, half wrong version of those things, the Sonali. Let me try it out. Hey, Sonali, who is the new executive director? Who's the new executive director at Pacifica, not KPFK.
There's a new executive director in Berkeley as well, which is the executive director of the Pacifica Foundation, Maxie Johnson. We have...
Can't even get her facts right about the foundation that sponsors her own show, okay? So I don't know if that's a trustworthy news source, a trustworthy independent news source. I'm starting to have my doubts about that. Like James McFadden, the retired UC Berkeley physicist up in Berkeley. Why does KPFK News sound like a lot like NPR, MSNBC? In the case of the Russiagate thing, it sounds just like MSNBC. And Ian Masters, he admires the journalism that they do at MSNBC. Meanwhile, they fired Ed Schultz for wanting to cover Bernie Sanders. Pretty frustrating. What else do we got? Oh yeah, getting close to the end here, folks. But my first pick, I didn't get to record apparently, so I have it now. Michelle Manos, she said a lot of interesting things that I like. She runs the event space at Wilshire and Fairfax. She's a longtime activist. She worked with the Bernie campaign and organizing and she knows how to get people out and get people excited and engage. She knows about listener voter engagement. Okay, I think she would be a great asset to the from listening from the debates. What she said in the debates again. Here's her talking at the debate last week.
Sort of using technology in that way is important. Part of what I think we need to be doing is increasing the listenership by making people feel involved. I've heard through talking to people about this to prepare for this event here that an idea to open up some town halls, maybe perhaps on the same day of every month or something like that, to get the community involved and use that opportunity to let folks know that it's a great time to contribute a few dollars. Another way is social media. KPFK is poorly prepared to take on the social media age and is behind. It's a shame to watch because it could be done so much better, and it's a great way to reach people. When we're talking about raising money and getting people involved, what we're really talking about is having people care about KPFK. So what we need is more people who feel represented by KPFK. I agree with the idea that we have listeners that don't speak a lot of English. We perhaps need some more programming that is designed and led and created for non-white people, for young people. And I think that bringing more voices to the table is definitely the way. When the community feels involved with KPFK as an organization, as a mission, then you're going to see people opening their hearts, their minds, their ideas, and their pocketbooks.
That sounds like somebody to me that knows what needs to be done and is ready to get to work. Okay, that sounds like somebody that's connected, experienced, intelligent, energetic, ready to go, enthusiastic, and ready to go to work, to me. Last but not least, Jen Goodman. She's sort of right on the border between honorable mention and making my list. She's been there for a long time. She's an old-timer at KPFK. I don't mean age-wise, just been there a long time. And not a lot of anecdotes about achievements and accomplishments, but she did say something that I really liked. Let's take a listen.
Well, I guess I have a very different idea about finances. I think that what we need to do is to raise money and keep that focus very seriously. I do agree that the most important thing that we can do to raise money is to have an excellent radio station. We need to have higher production values. That is to say, it needs to be easy to listen to KPFK. We need to have programs that are mission driven. That is to say, that bring information and news to people that they want to hear and they're not available elsewhere. And I have to say that we need to be modern about some of that, and we should be doing text donate, particularly as a way of getting funds in. As people are listening to programs that they like, they can immediately text in some money, and they should be encouraged to do that. Thank you.
So anybody that talks about the mission the mission-oriented programming, I'm on board with, I guess. No matter where they stand, other types of things. If that's at the top of their mind when they're talking about the station, I like that a lot. If that's on their mind. What else do we have? Let's try my new Sonali again. I can't afford Siri or Alexa. I had to settle for the Sonali. I couldn't afford them. This is the discount model. She's half right, half wrong. And you have to decide when. Hey, Sonali, who's the new executive director at Pacifica Foundation?
There's a new executive director in Berkeley as well, which is the executive director of the Pacifica Foundation, Maxie Johnson.
Oh man, that's disappointing. That's really disappointing. She's a news journalist. She's a journalist at KPFK. That's really disappointing. Folks, that we're getting to the end of it here. It's about 15 minutes in. That's my hot takes from the debate. Again, choice number one. Oh my goodness. Choice number one, Michelle Manos for her energy and spirit and just sounding like somebody that's ready to go to work. Marshall James, newcomer, Michelle Manos, newcomer Marshall James seems to be willing to get to work, okay? That's these old timers at the station, they don't seem to be ready to get to work. They seem to be, let's talk about it some more. Let's have some more meetings and stuff. What was I thinking about? Number 3, Tyann Schessor, another newcomer, young newcomer, and mentioned Jimmy Dore. Number 4, Jeff Silberman, another newcomer, and experienced with conflict resolution. I had Jan Goodman at number 5, but I'm going to drop her down. Well, I'm just going to make the rest of them honorable mentions. Jan Goodman, John Suarez, Michael Novick, Fred Blair, Alan Beek, Michael Novick. Okay. And you be the judge. Weak Link Award goes to Grace Aaron. I've already played those clips. Dishonorable mention goes to Ken Aaron, notwithstanding the clip that I opened with, thanking Renee Peñalosa. Dishonorable mention goes to Ken Aaron for saying this.
The listeners will come in and say, please do something like, that show about the auctions. What did you find in the attic? Or, put on wait, don't tell me. Or follow this or follow that or do something about this group or that group. People have pet peeves. People have hobbies. But
I'm not clear, and he may wiggle out of this somehow, but it sounds like he thinks, wait, don't tell me, the NPR game show, quiz show, is a KPFK show. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's not dishonorable mention winner here. But it sounded to me like he thought that was a KPFK show. He didn't make it clear. He did not make it clear whatever it was he was saying. He did not make it clear. For that reason, he gets a dishonorable mention, in my opinion. Folks, that brings us to the end. We're almost just over an hour here. I'm MZ. This is Who's the Savage Now. Please like, comment, and subscribe to support the content you're hearing. It helps the algorithms. And it's so important to have good algorithms these days. Check out Jimmy Dore on YouTube. Support his channel. Support getting him on to KPFK and KPFA. They're talking about him in Berkeley as well. Programming. The thing about community radio and getting people engaged, programming. Give them something they want to listen to that excites them, and there you go. There you were. There you go. Thanks for listening. Until next time. Peace out.